come with soft focus as we rediscover the promise of rock and roll. The dawn of rock and roll has been compared to the moment the pagans met the Christians face to face against a background of Roman decadence, imperial decay, and erotic barbarity. Through the years, though, rock and roll has been tamed from being a vortex of inscrutability to its current status as a genetically modified fast food meal which induces indigestion. Some brave souls, though, remember the original violence and revolutionary pretense of the art form. One such character is Glaswegian Bobby Gillespie of Primal Scream. Stylistically fecund and respecting no aesthetic boundaries, Primal Scream continues to confound, excite, and arouse. I can't wait to speak with him.
Soft focus.
So, Bobby, you've said before that music is magic.
Mm-hmm.
There's a legend you might be familiar with about the magician who makes a golem. Do you think that magic can ever get out of control, like the golem?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you think it is out of control right now?
Because of your music, you could attract a certain kind of individual who can suddenly be in the same room as you, and you wouldn't normally be in the same space as that person, and something violent could happen.
Invocation.
Maybe, yes.
Invocation.
You gotta actually start thinking why, what is it about us that attracts these kind of people?
Yeah.
You
have to keep a close eye on it.
When we first started making some money and getting songs in the charts and stuff, that suddenly the drug usage in the band kind of escalated and became totally out of control. And Douglas will tell you that, it'd be hard to get into a Primal Scream dressing room because it'd be full of drug dealers and their entourages fighting for the right to, get the band drugs.
Yeah.
And suddenly there was a lot of heavy guys, And if the heavy guy suddenly becomes your friend and is in your kitchen freebasing with your wife, anything can happen, So that's what I mean, you can open the door to like demonic
possession. And it's weird.
But it's okay as well, It's got it has its good sides.
And it's weird because you guys are artists essentially, so you're not heavies, but they love you because it's like opposites attract, and they kind of are attracted to it.
I don't know what it is, but we tend to attract kind of quite
gnarly
violent people.
Do you think that music as magic is utilized by the ruling class as kind of like magic to control the world or politics or anything like that?
Even if it was the most revolutionary, anarchic musician with like a real revolutionary message, that as long as it was selling, shitloads of CDs and shitloads of concert tickets, it's going to be allowed because it's making money.
Yeah.
So the system will just, soak it up.
A lot of times people cite you as like a huge fan of music, and you can hear that in your music, that you're like an evangelist for things that you love, and having kind of like preceded the common knowledge of a lot of the things that you champion, but things that are now that you've kind of like introduced into the mainstream. I don't know, how does that, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? How do you feel about that?
If we can get somebody to turn them on to like Parliament, Funkadelic, or King Tubby and Augustus Pablo, then you know what, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Anything that spreads the word of the knowledge, of something that's really beautiful, then I think it's good, Why keep it? I hate people who are snobs and who keep things to themselves. I mean, I love subcultures like mods or, teddy boys, rock and rollers or whatever. Anything that's kind of like where people are really precious about something and they've got their scene. I really admire that, and I love it when people are really into it, really into the detail and stuff. But at the same time, if you love something that much, it's kind of, you want to let other people hear it and make them feel as good as you do when you listen to it. So, and a lot of the stuff that I like because I like Johnny Rotten or The Clash, or and they were into certain stuff. And I would never heard the Stooges if I had never heard the Pistols do No Fun.
Yeah.
All right, so that was my starting point.
Tell me about just discovering underground music or outside music, like when you were a kid? Because I know you were kind of a scene maker in Glasgow. You were in a club and you played with. You roadied with Altered Images.
I used to go into town every Saturday, buy records, hang around in the record store, buy tickets for concerts. Anyway, I met these kids who always used to get the same bus as me, and obviously I could see the records they were buying. They were sort of dressed similarly, and I just started chatting to them. And they were like, I just left school and they were still at school. They were like 15. They had a band. The band was called Altered Images. So I used to go and see them rehearse, and they were really great. Like Susie and the Banshees, kind of heavily influenced by Susie and the Banshees. Anyway, the guitarist was a guy called Caesar. He was kind of like a bit older. He was like my age. I think he was older than me even. And when they, did a couple of tours supporting Susie and the Banshees, which was pretty amazing. And I was kind of the roadie, and they got signed to like CBS or Sony as it's now called. Caesar left because I think he felt they were getting a bit too commercial, so he wanted to be more like Y or Joy Division or something. And they formed this band called The Wake, and we took a demo tape. I don't know how we got Rob Gretton's number, the New Order's manager. I don't know how we got his address. But we got on a bus, we went to Manchester, and we knocked on Rob Gretton's door, and he answered it, and we said, "Oh, we're a band from Glasgow, and we'll give you a tape and listen to it, see what you think." And like a week later, he called up Caesar, and he said, "Would you like to make a record in Factory, and would you like to support New Order? I really like your tape." Wow. So we made a record in Factory and supported New Order. And it was really cool when we met New Order, and I never had a bass amp. I'd never fucking played a gig before, right? I learned the fucking songs the night before the gig. They said to me, "Can you learn the songs? The bass player's, he's run off, we don't know where he is." Because I think it was too much for him supporting the Order, so they had about 8 songs, I learned them. We get to the gig, it was in Bristol. I got to Peter Hook, and I say, he was like my total hero, right? It's like, "Can I borrow your bass and your bass amp? I don't have one." And he goes like, "Fuck off!" I was like, "Oh my God," and he went, "Of course you can." So I was on stage supporting the Order, this huge big bass stack and his level tears apart Yamaha bass, playing it like that. I did the set totally fucking, it was amazing. And they gave us their sound guy, their monitor guy, they treated us so well.
Yeah.
So to me they're the total punk band, New Order, Rob Gretton and Factory, because they were just so cool, and nobody in Glasgow would have helped us. And it's the same when Jesus and Mary Chain started, nobody in Glasgow helped them, they couldn't get a gig in Glasgow. They gave the tape to everybody in Scotland and nobody would give them a gig.
Yeah.
Or, give them a record deal or something, They had to come to London to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Primal Scream, you're sort of like collage artist in a sense, like, what do you think? I mean, this is the thing, it's like, collage is the 20th century art form.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that is what the 20th century brought to art. And right now there's this, intellectual property laws are getting incredibly restrictive. And I know that like you've used all these samples and your show, your live gig, because you kind of jump from style to style, there's a certain collage effect of that. That seems like inspired by DJs or mixtapes or something like that.
No, it's not inspired by that at all. No, it's not.
What's inspired?
What's inspired by? I think we've got short attention span. It's that simple. And we like to just use different instruments and atmospheres and in different songs. We were making records that were just meant to be records, they weren't meant to really be played live.
Yeah.
So when we took it out live, we had to try and find some way of presenting that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it worked and other times it never worked. But we've now got, the way we've got our set now, it's all high energy rock and roll, so just, it rocks from start to finish. But the collage thing, I agree, it is kind of like that.
Yeah,
very much so.
What about dance music and rock like rock, just aesthetically. I mean, do you feel like those are bogus classifications?
I like AC/DC or I love AC/DC as much as I love like some Belgian techno record. You know, if they still make Belgian techno records, I don't know if they do. But you know what I mean? It's just like Gabba. I like Gabba music. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Probably the same thing, really. I would just say that I like music, and it's just music to me. And as the same way that like if I hear a car crash, I've heard if 10 cars crashed out in the street just now, like in quick succession, that would be music to my ears.
Yeah.
So it's just music.
Yeah. The OJ said, "I love music."
That's right.
As long as it's groovy.
And he also said, they lie to your face, turn around, they want to take your place, the backstabbers.
Who's trying to take your place?
Money. I like Tom Bell and Linda Creed, who are writing the songs for the Spinners and producing them. And they also wrote songs for the Delphonics. La 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 means I love you and stuff. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Stylistics.
I love it. I love it
it's
all.
amazing.
For sale.
Betcha by golly.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So did Lou Reed, when he was making Coney Island Baby and Street Hustle, he said that his intention was to make rock and roll for adults. What do you think about that?
I think sometimes he's in danger of taking himself too seriously, right? Okay, and I kind of like him when he was a rock and roll animal and he was shooting lots of speed and he had iron crosses on the side of his head and big aviator mirror shades.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, he was like, I kind of love that rock and roll animal.
I think it's kind of condescending. I think the kids
this is what I think.
Smart.
I think I agree. It's kind of like he's trying to legitimize what he does.
Yeah.
And say that what I do is like, it's literature, but put to 3 chords.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, and it's like Marco Peroni, the guitarist in Adam and the Ants. I was talking to him about Lou Reed, and he saw the Rock and Roll Animal tour when he was a kid, and he was saying that, he goes, I even bought Lou Reed's book of lyrics. He goes, but why should it be poetry? Why can't it just be rock and roll? And I agree with him, what's wrong with rock and roll?
Why's Frankie Lyman not literature?
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that because your lyrics are all more about, they seem like more about sound and it's not about...
Yeah, we make ecstatic rock and roll, that's what we make. It varies, we can make something like Exterminator and then we can make something like Get Your Rocks Off and it's like, one's like, to me it's all the same. It's just we just don't take ourselves too seriously, We want to have some fun.
The records are really constructed. How do you maintain a sense of play when you're working? Like you've been doing this, and I know that you work,
Well, I've been in the studio today. It was a really great feeling to be in there and messing about with some ideas for songs and some songs that we've written recently, and I can't wait to go back to the studio, and that's a great feeling, because there has been times where I dreaded having to go back,
Is that why you bring lots of new collaborators in? Is that like a...
Well, the truth is, can I just say that we always bring when we bring people into playing stuff, it's always kind of like after the song's been written. It's always like an overdub type thing. I've always looked at that aspect of Primal Scream as like as a production thing, where like if you were making records in LA in the 60s, you would bring in Dr. John or whoever from the Wrecking Crew. You'd bring in the right, James Burton, or you'd bring in the right guy to play the right part. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the way it's working.
Nicky Hopkins.
Yeah, Nicky Hopkins. Yeah, well, we've got our own Nicky Hopkins, Martin Duffy. But yeah, exactly. That's good. That's a good example.
Well, I want to ask you about that because production is like it's such a weird term, producer. And it's such an open term.
It's open because there's people who have mixed songs for us and we've put it down and they've produced the record and they never produced the record, they mixed the song. So they've had work off the fact that it says produced by, but they never fucking produced it.
Yeah.
They did a mix, which we used.
Yeah. But
they never produced it. So somewhere along the line, somebody's got the terminal.
I guess that's what I was going to ask you about, is like work as an aesthetic, because for a lot of people, especially in America, it's like the work is, like James Brown, the hardest working man in show business. It's an enormous You know what I mean.
Guess if you're a musician, you want to be making music every day, or at least attempting to make music. And when it's going well, you want to keep making music, you know. So that's it. It's just really an urge to try and create something, I guess.
Yeah.
But also there's a need to validate yourself, I guess, which comes to the fact that, you know, you have, you know, I guess a lot of your self-identification comes from being in the band, and, you know, writing songs, and, you know, and if you write a good one, then you feel pretty good about yourself, you know. I guess, I mean, I don't know, I can't really take it.
Do you think rock and roll is a phenomenon of post-industrial culture because people aren't making things anymore, so then they have to make music?
Well, could be. I mean, it could be. I mean, I used to work in a factory, and all I ever wanted to do in the factory was make music. I used to just run around the factory with bits of metal, you know, smash them into fucking printing machines, you know, and screaming, you know, just screaming.
Yeah.
I obviously wanted to make, and that's before I ever thought I wanted to be in a band, but obviously the urge to fucking do something musically, you know, so whatever came to hand I would use, beat out rhythms in the fucking machine. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about, acid house never really translated to the United States in the way that it was here it was a phenomenon that was bigger than punk, you know, it was like it transformed the culture.
Maybe people in Britain really, really love getting wrecked.
Yeah.
Right, more than people anywhere in the fucking world, probably.
Yeah.
You know, on a bigger scale.
I agree.
Maybe it's got something to do with that.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's, well, if you read about the history of London, it's always been a dissolute place. Gin palaces, opium, you know, it's always been a violent, wasted city.
Yeah.
You know, so, but then you come from Glasgow and it's always been the same. So maybe the whole fucking island was like that. I really don't know why acid test never took off in America.
I mean, it's not our problem.
It's not my problem. Why did communism not take off in America? It nearly did, right?
You have an identifiable, like you have a distinct voice. But when, but your music isn't, the narrative of your music isn't like about you.
I really don't like it when things are too me.
Yeah,
I hate that kind of music. It's hippie.
Yeah.
It's post-hippie music, you know? Singer-songwriter, me. I feel so bad, the world's so awful.
A diary.
Boyfriend's left me. I hate that Dear Diary shit. Do you know what I mean? It's just more like...
Unless it's funny.
More like fucking good time roll and roll, you know, fuck you music. And, you know, if we have good dislocated songs about psychic dislocation and stuff, then it's there, but, you know, it's from... It's in our way, you know, it's like, in a way that hopefully other people can listen and go, oh, yeah, I can relate to that. You know, it's more like, in a more poetic way, rather than a sort of selfish, fucking self-serving kind of, you know, there's a whole strain of music that I hate. I don't even want to...
Like what?
Like, for instance, right, Radiohead, right, I couldn't imagine going to watch them for 2.5 hours. Because I don't think they're putting in... This is my fucking aesthetic, right? My thing about live music is that you want to go and see somebody who's putting out energy, right? Not sucking energy in from the hall. And bands like that, I think, they're sucking energy from the audience. It's in, it's not out. And I think the energy's got to be coming out from the stage, into the audience, and then it'll come back onto the stage again, you know? And it should be like a reciprocal thing, but...
Yeah.
I mean, when we play, we want everybody just to fucking, you know, we just want to fucking rock the place.
Yeah.
And one of the best gigs I've ever seen was AC/DC at the Hammersmith Odeon. It's about 4 years ago. Just incredible. They were just putting it out, you know, they're just kicking out the jams, so to speak. Just like, the energy level was so high, and it continued that high. You know, I put it this way, the first song, the encore, they came back. It's like, what else can they play? They come back on and they play Highway to Hell. You're just like, fuck it, too much. Right? Just like, you know, that's what I want to see when I go and see a rock and roll show.
Yeah.
Some guy from Oxford University feeling sorry for himself, you know, it's wrong. You know? People that tell me or make me want to, you know, support nuclear weapons.
Okay, that leads to my next question, which is bomb the Pentagon.
All right.
Because we can all support that idea. No, your record was called Bomb the Pentagon?
It was called that. It was a song. We never actually recorded it. Like if a bomb had been off in the tubes and we did a song, you know, just at that time it'd have been hell.
Yeah.
Living in Britain, you know, with the tabloids and everything.
Yeah.
You know, it was more like that.
Yeah.
And I just had like a baby and stuff. Just
Cannibalism.
my wife was just, that was too much.
Yeah.
You know.
You could have pulled like a Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds thing. Say, I wasn't talking about that Pentagon.
No,
I just don't
I
like
mean, the
the
whole
shape.
idea was because the pentagon's like a pentagram as well.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like a symbol of
Same-
black.
same.
It's a symbol of black magic. So
Yeah.
I had all this, you know what I'm saying? And also it was like a kind of, it was like a, it was maybe, you know, it was like a kind of Lenin thing, you know, like a big chant.
Yeah.
You know, give peace a chance, but reverse, not bomb the pentagon. But like a Public Enemy thing as well. So it was like a hip hop. Originally, it was conceived like a hip hop song, a hip hop beat. You know, bam, 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 the Pentagon, like shutting down or something. Yeah, it was about drugs and pornography, war, and drugs. You know, drug culture as social control, and there's a lot of different themes in the song. So I took the line up. Maybe I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. I had too much pressure on me.
Primal Scream's one of the only groups left that has any kind of like political, just even says anything political. Like what happened to that aspect of rock and roll? Like it just seems to completely devoid of any political intent or pretense.
I don't know.
Have you noticed that?
Was it ever there in the first place? Or?
Well, John Lennon
Yeah, Lennon, okay. Lennon.
and punk, and in the '80s there was We Are the World. I mean, as stupid as that is, as pithy and bad as it was the pretense of humanitarianism.
I thought it was just self-serving myself.
Well, it was self-serving, but my point is, they were giving a nod to that impulse in rock and roll.
I mean, I know that definitely we're a band that we did things for like Satpal Ram, who was like an Asian guy, lived in Birmingham, you know, accused. He killed a guy in self-defense and he went down on a murder charge because he had a bad lawyer, you know, and an Asian Dub Foundation they took up his cause and then they got us involved and we sort of helped it a bit and that, and then we did the Palestinian thing and then we did stuff for the miners and the Liverpool Dockers, so that's the kind of stuff that we've been involved in. We've never been involved in the kind of make poverty history type thing, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess that tells you where our politics lie there more than anything.
Rock and roll legends, mythology, things that people talk about. I don't know, just it's interesting. What's passed around as myth and then what's omitted.
Well, the myth is good, isn't it? I love the myth. I love the lies. You know,
Yeah.
Even if somebody says, "Oh, this never happened," I want to believe that.
Yeah.
You know, this crazy, outrageous, far-gone story actually fucking happened. You know.
Yeah.
Because I love it. I mean, it's like I need myths, you know. I mean, I just love the fact that Ron Ashton from the Stooges had 6 different Nazi uniforms in his bedroom at the Funhouse in Ann Arbor, Michigan, you know. And Don Gallucci, who was supposed to produce the third Stooges album, you know, when he had a look at Ron Ashton's bedroom, just thought, I'm not going to do this, you know. He'd let, you know, Nazi memorabilia everywhere, and I just thought, fuck's going on here? You know, I love that. You know, it just makes it even better.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm asking is about authenticity. Is that authenticity is kind of an obsession with singer-songwriter thing in America, like authentic expression, and
I hate all that shit. Do you know why I hate it? Right? Because it ain't rock and roll. It's all self-serving. Me. I don't care a fuck if their lives are miserable. I don't want to fucking hear about it. Do you know what? I want to have a good time, and I want to hear good time rock and roll music, or something interesting, or something beautiful. I don't want to hear some fucking 25-stone lesbian fucking wailing about how bad her life is. Do you know what I mean? I feel good. That's authentic as well. That's just as authentic as that I feel bad. You know, What does it mean? What does anything mean? That's what gets me about these people. They don't realise how fucking absurd everything is.
Yeah.
You know, they don't realise how. You should just laugh at it. The world is insane. It's like fucking Shane McGowan once said to me, the world is just like one great big Marx Brothers movie. Right? And I was just like, that's right. I love that. Summed it up for me.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like, it's fuck, you know, it's crazy.
Well, you mentioned Shane McGowan. You refer to a lot. You usually refer to more American or third world music. And one thing that I've noticed that Primal Scream doesn't seem to really refer to is British music as much. And
Americans can play rock and roll much better than British people because rock and roll is an American form of music. It's American music.
what do you think about?
I don't know why it is, but Americans can just they play better. They definitely play better. American drummers swing. British drummers don't really swing. That's why they don't sell in America, because they don't swing and they don't rock. They're a bit weak. Generally I think British music's kind of weak sounding. Made by weak people. It's true though, they don't have that intensity that American bands have. Even if you don't like American bands, they can play for 4 hours. I love American music, whether it's like Hank Williams or O.V. Wright or the Ramones, and it's sexier and it's more violent and it's just more and more.
Do you think Britpop, like the whole idea of Britpop, whether it existed or not, do you feel like it was nationalistic or something?
Well, we were Brits out. Primal Scream were Brits out. We were on Britpop. That fucking waving the Union Jack, man, I thought I want to fucking burn the Union Jack. I hate nationalism on any level. It's just like, where does it lead? Fascism,
So, yeah, what was behind that? What incited that?
I don't know. I think the music press just decided to create a scene.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And then because Oasis came through and they got so massive, right, that even like bands like Ocean Coliseum were selling like 1 million albums. Pulp sold 1 million. At the height of Britpop, all those bands sold 900 to, from 900,000 to like 1 million records, The NME had this thing at Christmas where they get the Jarvis Cocker, Justine from Elastica, Noel Gallagher, one person from all the kind of Britpop bands to kind of review the singles of the year and get your rocks office in there. Justine Fishman said, listen to him, he's singing about cops. People from Glasgow don't talk about cops. It's so Americanised. I'm like, ever since I was a little kid, they were the cops.
Yeah.
But I just love the fact that they hated that I was using an Americanism, I was like, great. What were we going to say? The Bobbies? Dicks and the Dalton Green? Do you know what I mean? But they took it to the point where you had Damon Albarn as like a middle class kid from St Albans, I think, pretending that he was from the East End of London, and that he went to to see the dogs, dogs racing, and he plays bets and all this stuff. And it's just like insane, and then getting a guy who played a mod in a film to be a mod. It's just like quadrophenia again. It's like crazy.
Well, Bobby, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, and you.
Is Primal Scream going to make a film? You haven't made A Hard Day's Night.
I don't think so.
Why not? You've got all the ingredients: chaos, collage,
KKK.
ideology.
CCC.